Welcome back, Randy Krause, My Observations, Edition 9. Today's edition, Wheels Up. In the last video, we discussed getting on a spiritual journey. And I asked you to look at yourself and to hopefully decide to go along on a spiritual journey of your own. I asked you to set some goals as far as where do you want to be when the spiritual journey, I don't ever want to say is over, but where do you want the spiritual journey to go? Where do you want it to take you? In what areas do you want to improve your life? Do you want to be less anxious? Do you want to be more forgiving? Do you want to be able to show love? Do you want to be able to put things aside? Let things go. So it's important to come up with some ideas on how you feel your life can improve and what you need to do to improve. Regardless of whether or not you set up some goals for yourself, I really encourage you to go back and watch my videos 6 and 7. In video 6, I talk about a life fulfilled, and I talk about the 3 areas that I feel are important to having a fulfilled life. And basically they are searching for wisdom and the 6 L's that go along with gaining wisdom: live, love, laugh, learn, listen, and lecture. And I feel if you work on those 6 L's, you're going to gain wisdom, and that, along with making solid, smart decisions using common sense, will be 1/3 of making your life fulfilled. The other 2 areas were keeping it simple, which, in keeping it simple, I talked about not being a simple person, but actually being a person who is wise, who seeks knowledge, who gains everything he can from life. So being strong mentally is important, but be simple in that you pursue simple things. Be simple in that you keep things in perspective. Be simple in that you don't make a drama out of everyday living. Make decisions that, don't put yourself in jeopardy of stress, such as going out and maxing out, 6 or 8 credit cards, or if you're married, don't get involved with other people. It's stuff like that is what I'm talking about when I say keep it simple. And the third thing is bringing God in and making him the center of your life. And I feel you take those 3 things, and the stronger you get in all 3 of those areas and you multiply them together, that's going to give you a life fulfilled. So I talk about that. And then in the next video, I did video 7, I discussed living in the spirit rather than living in the flesh. And I felt that was my ultimate goal, was and still is. I still want to do that. I still strive every day to live in the spirit and not in the flesh. So with that being said, I'm hoping that you can go back, watch those videos, and maybe incorporate some of that into your goals. Because in a spiritual journey, it's not only a matter of you want your spiritual life to improve, but I do truly believe if your spiritual life improves, you can improve in other areas. It'll help you with gaining wisdom. It'll open your mind up to wanting to learn and wanting to love and wanting to listen. Even when you're at work and you're in a meeting and there's nothing being discussed about religion, if you use what you learn through your spiritual journey, it'll help you with your work. It'll help you in all areas. So as you begin your spiritual journey, I think it's very important, first of all, and if you're a Christian, and I believe a spiritual journey can work for anybody in any religion. I think it can work for people who are non-believers. But certainly if you're a Christian, I think it's very important to read at least one of the Gospels. And if you're Jewish, I'd say, look through the first 5 books of the Old Testament and read about Moses, because that's really the backbone of, the laws that, God set for, the Jewish people and such. So, it's good to go through them and just sort of rekindle your faith. And when you're doing it, and this is what I learned to do, is you can't just read it from like an historical perspective or you're just trying to learn. You need to try to put yourself in that time period. You need to let your imagination go. You need to say, I'm living, in BC if I'm reading the Old Testament. And you need to not be a major person. You're not taking on the part. You're like an extra. You're just standing there. You're listening. You're traveling with with Israel, basically in the Old Testament. You're traveling along as they leave Egypt and go on to the other places, to the land of milk and honey, which is later to become Israel. So you want to put yourself in that perspective, because I think you're going to gain so much more. If you're reading the gospel, you're the 13th disciple. You don't have a speaking part. You're not mentioned, but you're the 13th disciple. You're traveling along. You're in the room for the Last Supper. If you can work on putting yourself in there, your spiritual journey is going to take off. It's going to take flight. Then what you do after that is you do some searching on Bible verses. And you want to say, I want to improve, I want to have less anxiety. I want to be less critical. I want to be more forgiving. I want more happiness. And you get on the internet and you do searches. There's some great biblical websites out there, and you do a search on the areas you want to improve on. You just put Bible verses related to being less anxious, and you read through them. And maybe you take that and you expand it. You go from reading that verse to reading that chapter. You go from reading that chapter to reading that book. And see where that takes you. And again, try to put yourself in the situation. If you're reading about St. Paul, then pretend you're traveling with St. Paul. And then the other thing, and I do this often, is I like learning about various saints. So I look up saints, and I also have a book on saints. And people have given me a lot of prayer books. So obviously, and I've discussed a few of the saints that I pray to for intercession, and I talk to. Obviously, St. Padre Pio is a big saint for me. St. Therese the Little Flower, and St. Bernadette, who found the fountains at Lourdes, France. They're probably my big 3, in addition to the Virgin Mary. And I pray. I do novenas to them, and I try to learn about them. I sat down and watched the songs of Bernadette, which is about the founding of the water at Lourdes, and I watched this movie, and it was just incredible, and it was in black and white, and it's a movie I would have never watched years ago. Even after I turned Catholic, I probably wouldn't have sat and watched this movie, but I watched it, and I got so much out of it, and I was able to kind of put myself with her. And it was amazing, and since that time I've built a real strong passion for her, and also for Lourdes, and I would love to be able to go to Lourdes. But really what I'm getting at is you need to just put yourself in these situations. Let your mind go. And you can go anywhere in the world. You can go to any time period. You are a time machine. You know, we only use a small percentage of our brain. If you can open that up a little bit more when you're on your spiritual journey and you have an idea, you say, Lord, I want to live in the Spirit. That's my ultimate goal. Because if I live in the Spirit here, I know I'm going to have a better chance of going to heaven, which is really the penultimate goal, is you want to go to the golden skies of heaven. And I believe you can get there without a problem if you let your mind go, you stay on that spiritual journey, and you put yourself in those situations. You're going to be a better person overall. You're going to feel good. You're going to have a feeling of euphoria, really. I can't explain it. I mean, I've had cancer for 9 months, but spiritually, I feel better now than I ever have. I guess it's almost 10 months. I keep saying 9 months. I guess it's around 10 months now. But at any rate, I mean, people ask me all the time, how can you be so comfortable? Or how can you be at peace? I say, because, you know, I've allowed myself to be there. And I work every day on being there. And I've accepted God's will. And along the way, I've had help from many of the saints. And just in talking about it, doing these videos has increased my spiritual journey. So give it a shot. Let those wheels go up sometime tonight. Open up the Bible. You know, for some of you might have to dust it off a little bit. That's fine. It's like a roadside trucking diner. It's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It never closes. You open up that Bible, you begin there, you let your mind go. You can go anywhere in the world. You can be with anyone you want to be in history. Put yourself there, let your imagination go a bit, and always try to get back to center. And we're going to discuss that a little bit in our next video, which will be out on July 4th. We're also going to do a little pancreatic talk and try a different setting on July 4th. See how it works out for us. Till then, God bless. And as always, live in the Spirit, not in the flesh. And we'll see you later.